people make it out to be. We're getting to that big fan here. You know, people say it's such a janky game. It's such a janky... In terms of dodging. Yeah, I don't quite... I need to get closer, or... Oh, so janky, so janky. Look how, quote, janky the dodging is in this, during this fight with all these guys. Well, yeah, I kicked his ass and dodged that. Able to hit the button in time. Let's see, we got one-on-one. I'm waiting for you to come to me. Dodge that one. Dodge that one. They got the upgrade where they try to block, you break their arm. See, I wait for them to attack and you come get me, bitch. I love that. I knocked this guy right into the grinder. I love that. Dodge that motherfucker. Take your arm. Take your ass to jail. Fuck your tentacles. OT, don't push me over here. How about that? Dodge that. Fuck you, haymaker. You shooting at me. Come get me, bitch. I don't have enough of the grip power, I don't think. So then you wait for it, you dodge, break their fucking arm, kiss my ass. Take your ass to jail, son. Come on, come and get me. Then these are the more powerful enemies. If it's so janky, I should be getting my ass kicked left, right, and center and die 85 times. It's so janky. Look how janky the dodging is. Oh my god, I dodged. Oh my god, I hit him. Oh my god, it's so janky, right? Look how janky it is, guys. Holy shit, it's so janky, right? Look how janky the dodging is. Look how janky. Whoa, actually, I'm kicking his ass, Seabass. I just kicked everybody's ass. Dodged like a motherfucker. Because I didn't screw up. Hey, this is Matt once again. We're back to another video. This is another paid request, this time for frame by frame. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, re-reviews, reviews, whatever. Pretty much any type of video, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box on almost any of these videos. Now, I may be rusty on this because very rarely have I reviewed a video game. But this is of the new one, the Callisto Protocol. And I don't know, maybe I'll have some footage and I'll be in like one of the corners so you have something more interesting to look at. Now, the Callisto Protocol, the plot of the game is you play Jacob Lee as Josh Duhamel is the actor. Now, Josh Duhamel is an actor who I've enjoyed in some of the Transformer films. He's one of the better parts of that stuff. And then also, he's been in a few direct-to-video films, Fire with Fire, Bruce Willis, among others. Pretty good actor. Bit of an underrated actor. I would say this has become my favorite character he's played. I wish we could see a movie as him playing this character. He is a pilot of a cargo ship. It takes place a couple hundred years in the future. Him and his co-pilot are making a run. Their ship gets a few visitors. There's a crash on Jupiter's dead moon. One thing leads to another. His co-pilot is dead. He's thrust into prison along with this lady who was one of the people boarding his ship. And he's put into the Black Iron prison on the dead moon of Jupiter. He's in prison. He gets a thing on the back of his neck. He wakes up. Everything's gone to shit. People are being infected. You got various people turned to various different kinds of creatures. And it's him trying to escape while finding out the dark secrets of what the Callisto Protocol really and truly is. Now, I think this was a damn good game. I'm not going to say this is a flawless game. I'm not going to say it's a perfect game. But I'll just say right there, if I gave it a rating, which I rarely do, it would be, at this point, how I feel, an 8.5 out of 10. An 8.5 out of 10. Here's the thing. This had a bad initial launch. The Callisto Protocol has a horrendous initial launch. At the very least on PC, Steam, on PlayStation 4. I think PS5 and X Series X not so much for people, but those other platforms. And I get it. I truly get it. Because I was one of those folks. This is a game I got as a gift, Christmas gift from my friend Michael Keane. And when I popped it in, there was a lot of issues. There was the character moving like he was underwater, the stuttering, the frame rate being absolutely choppy and unplayable. I got in 1 or 2 battles, I could not tell what the hell was going on. The game crashed. Horrendous, because this is a game meant, I don't know why, for PC. That should have been working perfectly. I'll give you that. No excuses. PS4, if you don't release it, there should be no excuses either. I do get it, though, that it's a PlayStation 5 type of game trying to put into a PS4 hole. If the PS5 is a square peg, the PS4 is this round hole trying to fit in there and just pushing it in. And even with the patches, I think the last one, I thought there was a version 1.09 for PS4, but no, just version 1.08. It's still very playable. I found it to be fairly smooth. There were still some weird glitches, which is really one of my few main complaints of the game. But I really enjoyed it. Playing it, I had such a great satisfaction in fighting, dodging, combat, the atmosphere, the graphics. If I go through the list, number 1, I enjoyed the Jacob Lee character by Josh Duhamel. I think he gave a very good voice performance. The others did fine as well. The security guard, which I kept thinking of Cole Hauser, because his name is Cole. I thought he was naturally a dickhead, but in a well-done way. The doctors, like Dr. Mahler, female doctor, even the lady Danny, she seemed very bitchy, but then you find out later why that's the case, and you kind of understand a bit more. There's this prisoner you meet early on, Elias. I thought the acting was good. I thought the voice acting was pretty solid. And like I said, I really like Josh Duhamel's main character. Number 2, the graphics are beautiful, even on the PlayStation 4. I can imagine on PS5, which I don't own. Probably not anytime in the future, just way outside my expense range. Love the graphics. Beautiful, especially when you're on the surface of the moon of Callisto, the moon. Beautiful looking game. The graphics are absolutely on par with what is, a next gen title. The sound design, I think the sound design is very much on point. Very much on point. Same with the music. I think the music fits for the darker atmosphere that is building. The length of the game. People keep saying it's a short game. It's a short game. I don't know what they're talking about, because it took me 14 hours to play it. And you think of survival horror or even horror titles. Think of horror titles. How many of them are, I guess unless The Last of Us, but how many others are really that long? I mean, that's probably as long as it took me to beat Dead Space. But no one complains and says Dead Space is too short. So no, I don't think this is that short of a game as people make it out to be. It took me 14 hours to beat it. So I'm like, well, how much longer? I mean, sure, Alien Isolation I would say is longer, although some would say that was too long. The length didn't bother me at all. I thought it was a good length. I want more because I really enjoyed the game and didn't want it to end. The creatures, I like the design of the creatures. It did remind me of John Carpenter's The Thing, with the two-headed creatures and the blind creatures, and you have these invisible type of creatures that you're trying to land on you. I like the design. I thought there was enough variety there. The guns felt good, especially the shotgun and the assault rifle. Even the pistol, I like the sound effects of it. I like the feel of it. It's not just melee. You do have guns, but you also use a lot of melee as well. And I guess there's some people that just don't like melee at all. They just want it strictly to be guns, guns, guns. And I'm sitting there going, I guess if they ever played a Silent Hill game, try using, just believe me, Silent Hill 1, I mean, you do get a gun, but for the most part, you'd be using melee. Back to the days of Silent Hill and Silent Hill 2 with a pipe. But yeah, if you strictly just want guns, like I said, after a little bit you do get a pistol, and you do get other guns if you want to use that way. You also get this device called a grip. It's like a kinesis. You can pick up enemies and use the environment to throw them into fans, spiked walls. That was very entertaining. That was very cool. It's definitely an extremely gory game, and it satisfies the bloodlust. And that's the thing with this type of game. It felt like I was playing Splatterhouse meets Dead Space, or Final Fight meets Dead Space. But I did think of Splatterhouse, where you remember Splatterhouse, the arcade, Splatterhouse 2 and 3 on Sega Genesis. You did items, smashing the shit out of them. So I love that. I love Splatterhouse meets Dead Space. I think that's a cool combination. It's a unique combination. And so many people are complaining about the combat and the dodging. I have no idea what they're talking about. Because again, I'm playing on, granted, the patched PS4. And it worked fairly well for me. I did a playthrough. I showed it. In fact, I'll show during this video, I'll show down there, or in the where I'm at, whichever corner I'm at, where I'm on the platform where you find all these creatures. This is before you get to the two-headed boss. And to get into some of my complaints, if you don't like the game, to each their own. We all have different opinions. But some of the reviews I see and hear, I just do not get at fucking all. Like Angry Joe. If you like Angry Joe, to each their own. I'm sorry, Angry Joe, this is not a fucking 3 out of 10 game. Give me a break. A 3 out of 10? Really, a 3 out of 10 game. I'm sorry, Joe, if you sucked at it. And, you know, there's been other people, because I mentioned on a stream, and people like, yeah, don't take Angry Joe serious. Someone mentioned he played an Uncharted game, and he used a certain facilitator that was meant there for disabled people, and Joe had to use that to beat the game. Angry Joe and some others say that, well, if you have 2 or 3 enemies and you have to fight melee, there's no way you can do it. That's bullshit. Because I did that. I'm not much of a gamer. I'm on the PS4 version. And I was able to do it. Again, you don't believe me? The playthroughs are up. Unedited. Early on stages, I'm dodging left or right, and it's a learning curve. You may not get it in 5 minutes, but it's a learning curve. You hold, he moves. Then you go to the other side, and I saw a pattern. Okay, more than likely this guy's going to swing at me twice. So I'm going to hold, I'm going to go left. As soon as before he approaches me, I'm holding left. I dodge. As soon as I do it, I hold right. In case he does it, dodge. If he stays there for a second longer, I go in for the hit. If he's staggered, I go in for the bigger hit. If and when I get that ability. And then later I'm okay, they're going for 3 hits. So I'm going to dodge like this fucking Rocky Balboa movie. And once in a while they do a little pot shot here and there, as what would happen in real life if 4 or 5 of them are around you. Once in a while they'll do a little hit in there. But again, when I fought on the platform, early on in the prison, there's a point where you gotta go over, I believe this is right after you open the cell for this other prisoner, and you walk out and you do a few things. I think you go under, then over. That way you get back to where the jail cells are. And there's like 3, 4 bad guys. And I was dodging them very well. Beat them all. Didn't die. Like that platform, when it's like this big platform, is like a shitload of enemies, stronger enemies. I didn't die at all to that. Now I did die to the boss, the 2-headed asshole, because I didn't know if there was some other trick. Just sort of learning. Can I melee him? Oh no, it's 1-hit kill. Okay, can I pick him up? No. Do I have to lead him to a fan? No. It was just more simple. Just shoot the shit out of him until he gets on his knees and you beat the fuck out of him. Okay, cool. But yeah, and like, what was it? Jacksepticeye, he's like, I played it for an hour and didn't like it, never played it again. I'm sitting there knowing, considering a lot of the other games you played and a lot of other stuff you've done, and you want to say that this has bad acting? Dude, I mean, they're better than your acting and what was a Murder House or whatever the hell is some janitor and, you know, doing these. I mean, come on, dude. Give me a break. And like the people say that the dodging in combat is janky. What the fuck are people talking about? Again, I played the game. I beat the game. If I die, fairly usually it's because I screwed up. I didn't dodge when I was supposed to. I was trying to be too cocky, try to get some extra hits in. And it was a challenge, but it was a fun, entertaining challenge. And, you know, people say that, again, the controls are janky. I disagree. I don't get what people are saying, because, again, I played the game. I've shown the game. I don't know if this or some other time I will be showing the whole sequence where I'm dodging left and right and kicking ass and taking names. And it was fulfilling. It was intuitive. And like I said, it has got a good atmosphere. I love the environments of all the different places in the prison, from the hospital to the laundromat to you're inside the ship where all the gears are going up, to being stealthy, utilizing your weapons and your melee, utilizing your environments, even again as simple as pick up a creature and throw them into a fan. Very just satisfaction. And the combat felt weighty. It felt like, yeah. I felt the certain, like each battle seemed like a life and death struggle. And I felt it. And I was with the Jacob character. And there are some issues I have with it, sure. But it did have a first bad impression. I do wonder if that Sally just ruined a lot of other people's chances to ever give the game more of a shot. Yes, they should have fully tested their game. And as much as I enjoy the game, as much as I give an 8.5, I will still say this. to the people who make these games. Your customers are your customers, not your beta testers. You're not having people pay $60, $70 to be glorified beta testers. You're having them so the game is done and ready for them to play. Give a lot of time, test it out, should have been the case. But at the same time, I do give credit where credit is due, where within a week or so, or less, they had patch here, a patch there, and for the most part worked rather well on the PS4, and it seems like for others, it's been working on the PC. So I give credit to that and the quickness of that. I do think, honestly believe that if this game came out with 0 issues on the initial launch, it would still get pummeled by reviews. It would still get pummeled by critics, by people on YouTube. Like I said, if you enjoyed it, sincerely, okay. It's just, number one, I get a little bit aggravated because, for example, there's a guy, nice guy on here, Anthony from Let's Talk Resident Evil. If he ever sees this, let me know if you want to talk about this game on your channel, whatever, I would happily join. Because I know he liked the game. He thought it was an 8 out of 10. I mean, I gave it probably an 8.5 out of 10. But he said he liked it, he enjoyed it, he had issues with it, but very short, nice, concise, good review. And he got called a sellout, he got called that he got paid off, all this other stuff. I'm like, motherfucker. You don't know survival horror, even though his whole fucking channel is about Resident Evil. So, that stuff just bugs the fuck out of me. And it wasn't even directed towards me, but just, like, Anthony's a good guy, he knows what he's doing, he's a great guy. And, so it's not to the people who dislike the game, it's to the people who dislike the game and are just fucking... And what I was saying before is, it seems like this game would have been up a shit creek no matter what, is that the inconsistency of what's said. What I mean by that is, there's people that say the game is too easy. There are people that say the game is too hard. There's people that say that the game is not like Dead Space. There's people that say it's too much like Dead Space. And I'm like, well, which the fuck is it? Is it too easy, or is it too hard? Is it too much like Dead Space, or is it not enough like Dead Space? Well, which the fuck is it? Too hard? If I can beat it, it's not too hard. Too easy? I don't know, I thought it was... I would say probably more difficult than Dead Space 1 and such. So I wouldn't say it's too hard. And I wouldn't say it's too easy. Too hard? It's not like it's fucking Ninja Gaiden. Or hell, go play one of the Super Nintendo games back to the day. What we call Nintendo hard. Go play Super Star Wars for Super Nintendo if you want to talk about hard games. And too easy? I don't know, I didn't think it was too easy. Didn't seem like other people thought it was too easy. And then if you think it's too hard, they have all these options. If you want to have auto dodge, auto melee, auto this and that. I was surprised they didn't just put an option, you click on it, you beat the game automatically. Like, come on, people, learn the fucking game. Again, it's not like it's fucking Ninja Gaiden. I was able to learn the game and the dodging and combat, and it was fun. It was fun, and it worked. That's another thing with Angry Joe. This is what I meant, I didn't finish that thought where I say he was full of shit. He said, well, if you have more than 2 enemies, or more than 1 enemy, if you have like 2 or 3 enemies, then combat is pointless. And I'm like, wait a minute. Once again, I was on a platform, and at one point I had literally 4 or 5 of those strong-ass enemies. It was zits upon zits upon zits. And I was able to fight them, and I was able to beat them. I got a few hits in it, but I was still able to be patient, learn my environment, dodge like a motherfucker, bob and weave, use the haymaker when I could, and I was able to beat it. Hell, my first fucking try. Maybe a little bit of luck, but Come on now. To say the way he described it, it's not the game I played. Maybe Angry Joe, you need to get good. I don't fucking know. But I'm sorry, a 3 out of 10 with the great atmosphere, gore, the satisfying crunching of bones and tissue when you're beating the shit out of them or shooting the shit out of them. That's not a fucking 3 out of 10. And then people, well, the game's not scary. I don't know. I thought it was as intense as Dead Space 1. See, I like Dead Space 1. Dead Space 2 is my favorite of the three. I like Dead Space 1, but a lot of things that people come up with critiques, I'm like, you just say that for a number of other games. Like, I'm not going to mention his name because he was a nice guy. But he mentioned how, well, I got to the platform, and before that was survival horror, now it became action horror, and it killed it for me. I'm like, number one, what's the difference? Like, what's wrong with having both survival and action horror? Why is that such a bad thing? I mean, Resident Evil 4 absolutely did that. From tense moments where these creatures that won't die, the regenerators, but then you also deal with a bunch of bad guys with guns and bazookas trying to shoot at you. Now, me and a lot of other people like Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 2 Remake. I mean, you have Claire shooting the bad guy with a fucking minigun. You don't think that's action horror? In a survival horror title? Condemned Criminal Origins. There's creepy moments, but there's also moments where there's a police raid outside with all the searchlights and you're in this fenced area and you're beating the shit out of more than one person. Or you're in a swimming pool and you're having a weird hallucination and bad guys just keep coming out for you to beat the hell out of them. Dead Space. I mean, Dead Space, you had shit like the cannon scene where you have to shoot all the fucking asteroid bits. Which I'm glad none of that was in this game. Dead Space 2, I love Dead Space 2. One of my favorite games ever. That's a whole scene where you're on a drill going through all this groundwork and walls while creatures are coming out of the woodwork. And there's even creatures on the outer skirts trying to shoot your ass. So, and then, he mentioned the janky combat. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. The combat dodging worked pretty damn fine to me. But apparently I'm alone in that. The game just liked me in that aspect. I don't know why. And there's some sections I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed being on the surface of the moon. Hell, I wish that was longer, because I love the look of it. To me, this is the real Dead Space 3. That's the way I looked at it at the end of the day. This, to me, is the real Dead Space 3. I hated Dead Space 3. I hated the story in Dead Space 3. I hated that you could modify your gun 85 fucking times. I didn't like that. And all the ammo looked the same, and people say this game's predictable. You think that game's not predictable? Oh, Norton, the asshole who's with Ellie. I wonder if he's going to turn on us. Oh my god, he did. What a big surprise. I couldn't see that coming. Yeah, if Mr. Magoo saw that coming. And I felt much horror and intensity in this game compared to Dead Space 3. To me, this is easily the real Dead Space 3. That's just me, though. I also love the bits with the water slide. I thought that was a fun section. I liked a lot of the prison sections. There's not really a section in this that I disliked. I just see myself playing the game again. I'm going to wait until the new game plus to replay it again. Which that's another one of my flaws with the game, which I'll get to. But it's one of those things where this game got completely shit on because honestly it seemed like it's not Dead Space 4, so fuck it. Now people say, well, It's from the people who made it, and they kept mentioning it as a spiritual successor to Dead Space. It is. To me, it absolutely is a spiritual. It's just not a physical successor to Dead Space. There is a big difference. Spiritual as in, you see the hallmarks of it. The rig on the back, instead of the back, it's the neck. They show you health. The type of spacesuit, not the exact same, but you'll be on the surface. Again, a better version of Dead Space 3 than the actual Dead Space 3. This conspiracy to further human civilization, kind of like the Unitologists in the first Dead Space. So I get the comparisons, but at the same time, it was still doing a lot of its own thing. Like Jacob, to me, is a different lead than Isaac, who didn't even talk in the first fucking game. The melee, the combat, the dodging, to me was very fun and unique. And like I said, it felt like I was playing a cool version of Splatterhouse. It was better than the Splatterhouse for PS3. At least to me. And the locations and the... To me, it was a spiritual successor to Dead Space. Only without annoying sections like the fucking cannon shooting the damn asteroid bits. Which I hated those sections. Which thankfully you got rid of in Dead Space 2. If people don't care about the plot. Well, I mean, I like the plot, just like I like the plot of Dead Space 1. And what's the plot of Dead Space 1? A guy who don't talk, trying to find his girlfriend, who in the remake looks like she's 67 years old. You're dealing with Kendra, who's a bitch. Only in the original is a bitch with personality. Anything I've seen on the remake, the bitch has no personality, and every voice acting is bland as fuck. Marker, Necromorph, there's a crazy asshole, and you go on down the planet, and Nicole killed herself. You try and get the marker, boom, things get fucked up, you leave, girlfriend, her time of the month, even as a ghost, tries to get at you, cue Dead Space 2. I mean, I wouldn't call that an avant-garde plot, but it served its purpose, just like this plot served its purpose. And I want more from the end because I want a sequel, but I doubt we're going to get a sequel because of the shit reviews. And again, I don't... If your review is of the initial impression of the glitches, I get that. But with the patches in and it cleaned up, and when you play it, it's actually a rather good, fun horror game with a lot of intense moments, good length of time, beautiful graphics, nice horror atmosphere, and just some of the more satisfying action combat I've seen in a long while. It's not scary. Well, you know what? I like Resident Evil 2, the remake. I like. Other than a few times with Mr. X, I would not call that game scary. You get intense moments like not wanting a liquor to kill you. But I wouldn't call that deathly scary of a game. But no one says that about Resident Evil 2 remake. And I'll say this here, and people will get pissed at me. Resident Evil 2, the remake I like, I enjoyed this game more as an experience. I did. Because as much as I like the Resident Evil 2 remake, in a weird way, it wasn't as fun as I wanted to be in playing. Because when you're having to fight the zombies or the creatures, it either just complete bullet sponges, or like the battles aren't as fun to me compared to this, where I get to a train and move the train, and push this motherfucker off. Or the zombies, you shoot. Maybe a limb falls off. You shoot him 18 times in the head, it don't do shit. While here I did much more a visceral, gory reaction. Like every hit and every shot meant something. And it just made it much more of a fun, satisfying experience. Plus, I always prefer the original Resident Evil 2 more than the remake. But yeah, I liked it, but I had more of a fun time, which at the end of the day, that's what I want in a game. What I want in a game is the fun experience of being away from my troubles in the real world, escaping in this world, and just having fun. And this game delivered that fairly well. Now, are there issues with it? Yes. The number one with the PS4 version is the glitches. Now, it's been patched. For the most part, it's working well. Once in a while, there's a few weird glitches. Like there's a point where I'm looking for a fuse, and I broke this glass. I leave the room, I come back, and it's like the glass kind of weirdly reappeared. That also happened again later on in the game where I'm in like a little bit past the psych ward. There's an area of a hallway. A creature busts through the glass and I kill it. I leave. When I come back, the glass is back on there. So once in a while there's a weird little glitch here and there. At the end I thought there was another patch. There isn't, but maybe there will be in the future. But it's nothing game breaking. It is one of those where, again, this was meant for the PS5, Xbox Series X. But for me, it is the number one flaw. But thankfully, nothing game crashing, nothing game breaking, which is nice. But the bugs are the number one issue. Number two, New Game Plus. There should have been a New Game Plus from the get-go. Hardcore, which I know there's a tougher, but I mean like ultra hardcore, whatever. That should have been initially in there. It was that way with other games. Resident Evil 2 Remake. A bunch of other games. Why do you have to wait till February? Which I think it'll be a free download, but still, it's like, why do people have to wait till February? Why not from the get-go? I don't think that should have been the case where people don't get it initially. Especially at this point where sadly a lot of people didn't like it or they're returning the game. Which I'm like, okay, well, they're losing out. It just pissed me off because I want to see a sequel. Because I want to see Jacob's story finished and continue. And sadly, we're not going to get that. And that pisses me off. But because I don't think it's that bad of a fucking game. Not one goddamn iota. But there should have been a New Game Plus. Right from the get-go, day one. That's number two. Number three, the manual save is pointless. Now, granted, it didn't bother me too much because the autosaves are pretty good. Like a lot of these games. I mean, the autosave is pretty good. And you're not going to be that far away, if you know what you're doing, from the last save. So it didn't bother me too much. But would have been nice to have a manual save. Again, like a variety of other games. Yes, it would. And they have a manual save, but it does absolutely nothing, so I don't know what the fuck the point of it is. Like, you hit the manual save, but it doesn't do anything. You just back to the autosave you had before, so that's number three. If you don't want to say manual save, have it be an actual manual save. Number four, audio logs. I liked hearing audio logs, liked finding them in games. I wish they were longer. More detailed, so it's even more of an incentive to find these things. Like, longer. Like, some of them, I swear, are like 10 seconds or 15 seconds long. I'd rather be a lot longer and really give us more of a scene or backstory. The switching of the guns to leave a little bit to be desired, where on the PS4 is a thing that says if you press left on the diagonal, you press left, you could quickly swap. But there'd be times where I have 4 guns, I'm out of the machine gun, I swap to the pistol, okay, let me hit it again, get the shotgun. No, it goes right back to the assault rifle. I'm like, what? Why are you going back to the assault rifle? I clicked it once, pistol, clicked it once, I'm going back. I got other guns. I think that could have been implemented a little bit smoother. That's really my main 5 nitpicks and complaints. And the first one is more of a nitpick. I think that's the major flaw, but the bugs. But again, have a new game plus from the get-go. Manual save, make that mean something. I wish audio logs would have been a bit longer. Switching guns, I think could have been done a little bit more effective. Like if have the left, go to one, hit it in the other, hit it in, go to the other, hit it in, go to the other. It wasn't really doing that effectively when I played it. But yeah, overall, I think it's a fun, entertaining, fast-paced game where the melee really gets you into the action. And I felt a lot of intensity. I felt, oh shit, am I going to live? Am I going to die? What else going to happen next? I felt it. And that was satisfying. Really satisfying. But that's just me. So, yeah. I don't think the game is as bad as people make it out to be. Not by a long shot. That's why I easily give it an 8.5. With that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.